The janitor's voice cracked as he whispered, "Please, don't fire me. I have nowhere else to go." And in that moment, the undercover CEO froze. What he discovered next inside his own store was darker, heavier, and far more heartbreaking than anything he could have imagined. He entered the store quietly, dressed in plain clothes, blending in like a shadow. Nobody knew the truth, that the man walking down those aisles was not a customer, not a new hire, but the very founder of the company itself. Today he was undercover, here to see his empire not through polished reports, but through the eyes of those who worked unseen. Near the back of the store, past the polished shelves and cheerful displays, he caught sight of a janitor crouched low, head bowed, shoulders trembling. The mop lay forgotten. A soft, stifled sob echoed in the empty corner. The CEO paused. He expected fatigue, maybe frustration, but not tears. The janitor's whisper broke the silence. "I can't lose this job, not now." "Not like this?" The CEO's chest tightened. He had walked battlefields of business, endured betrayal, fought competitors who tried to bring him down. But the raw sound of a man crying for survival, it pierced deeper than any boardroom battle. This janitor was no stranger to pain. Years earlier he had served his country, a soldier who had stood under scorching suns and freezing rains, defending strangers he would never meet. He came home with scars no one could see, carrying the silence of fallen brothers and the weight of promises he couldn't keep. Yet instead of medals bringing him opportunity, they left him invisible. Employers turned away, whispers followed him, and dignity was traded for survival. Now, in this store, he scrubbed floors with quiet pride. He never complained, never asked for praise. He wore his uniform like armor, his mop his weapon against chaos. But today something had broken. The CEO saw it in his trembling hands, in the way his lips mouthed prayers only he could hear. The truth unfolded slowly, painfully. Behind the tears was injustice. A supervisor, young, arrogant, blind to the janitor's quiet strength, had berated him in front of others, called him useless, threatened to have him replaced. And the others? They heard, they saw, but they turned away. Silence became the cruelest betrayal. The CEO stood unseen, fury coiling in his chest. Yet he did not speak. Not yet. He wanted to see who would rise, who would defend the voiceless. But none did. The janitor remained alone, dignity bleeding in the silence of that store. It was then that the CEO stepped forward. His voice was calm, steady, yet unshakable. A man who gives his life to service is never useless. Respect is not optional, it is owed. The room stilled. The arrogant supervisor's smirk faltered. Whispers spread like wildfire. Who was this man? And then the CEO removed the disguise. The janitor's eyes widened, shock flashing through the tears. The staff froze as realization struck. The very man they served had witnessed everything. The power shifted instantly. The bully who had spat words of contempt now stood pale, stripped of false authority. The CEO turned, his words sharp, immortal. Silent dignity is stronger than loud arrogance. A man's worth is not measured by his title, but by his sacrifices. The crowd that had been silent now lowered their heads in shame. One by one they began to clap. Not for the CEO, but for the janitor who had carried himself with honor even under attack. Respect filled the air like a rising tide. The janitor, who had moments ago felt invisible, now stood tall. Tears still glistened, but this time they were not from despair. They were from the rare weight of justice finally delivered. And as the CEO placed a hand on his shoulder, he spoke words that would echo beyond that store. "From this day forward, you are not just our janitor. You are our brother, our hero, and we will never forget it." The applause swelled. A chorus of overdue respect. The once silent store had become a stage of redemption. The supervisor was dismissed, but the janitor, he was given a new role, one that honored his sacrifice and dignity. Because sometimes the greatest heroes are not those in suits or ties, but those who fight battles no one sees and keep standing anyway. Respect is not earned through power. It is owed through humanity. Too often we forget the silent heroes who clean, who serve, who sacrifice without applause. But their dignity is unshakable, and their stories matter. Wherever you're watching this from, share your thoughts in the comments. Would you have spoken up if you were there? And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that honor silent heroes, because their voices must never be ignored again.